Nowadays it seems we're going out of fashion. We're tired of being who we are. Nowadays it seems there's no reaction, but it's not too late for us to start. Let's return to what is in our nature. Let's revive the street from heart and heart. Let's begin to look into the future. We are the builders, we are the makers. Nations rise at the work of our hands. Don't let them tell you we couldn't bring this world to its knees if we all learn to take a stand. Nowadays the verdict is we're guilty, being made ashamed of our whole race. Nowadays they find no difficulty telling us that we should be replaced. Let's return to what is in our nature. Let's restore what they tried to split apart. Let's begin to look to what is greater. We know who we are. We are the builders, we are the makers. Nations rise at the work of our hands. Don't let them tell you we couldn't bring this world to its knees if we all learn to take a stand. You're one of us, or one of them, pretending this will be the end. They will never win, while a single one of us still lives. Look around, open your eyes. It's time to see through all the lies. Revolution, it begins. It's time to fight on for our kids. You're one of us, or one of them, pretending this will be the end. They will never win, while a single one of us still lives. Look around, open your eyes. It's time to see through all the lies. We are the builders, we are the makers. Nations rise at the work of our hands. Don't let them tell you we couldn't bring this world to its knees if we all learn to take a stand. We are the builders, we are the makers. Nations rise at the work of our hands. Don't let them tell you we couldn't bring this world to its knees if we all learn to take a stand unapologetically.
Welcome back to American Zarathustra. It is our great pleasure here on episode 48 to introduce one of the great musicians and part of the White Art Collective family, Awaiting Dawn. It's so great to have you finally on the show. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
It's long overdue, actually. Big fan of your work. Mama P plays it a lot on the White Art Collective D-Live shows, all those shows. It's wonderful. And let me welcome back my dear friend Nullus from abnormocracy.com. How are you, sir?
Hi, Donald. Awaiting Dawn, this is a very special honor for me. You've collaborated and really elevated some of my work to levels that I've never would have otherwise imagined. So this is a big deal for me to have you on Imperium Art. And this last song that we played, the intro song that we played from you, is my opinion that is the anthem of White Brother Summer. So welcome to the show, and hello to the audience.
Marvelous, marvelous. So on that note, do you guys want to talk a little bit about work you've done?
Okay, sure. I mean, I just do a ton of different styles, as you can probably tell if you've listened to any of them, because like that one was one of my few electronic ones, but I also do a lot of like ambient kind of slow build songs and some harder like rock and metal type stuff. Just a ton of different variety. I always like to try something new depending on the kind of feeling I'm going for.
Nice. I've noticed, listening, sort of reviewing your music again at the nice variety that you have, and I feel that you should, or you could get work in film, because a lot of your music I feel has a fantastic kind of a soundscape, a wonderful narrative quality to it. There's a nice drama, a sense of timing, and the way that it's just epic. A lot of it is very epic, if you know what I mean, which I'm sure you do. So it's just it's wonderful to have you on the show, and it's amazing too. I also wanted to ask you, how many instruments do you play?
Well, that really depends on how you kind of define being like a guitarist or a pianist, for example, because I might play guitar on songs, but I still I have a lot of trouble considering myself a guitarist because I'm not like at a level where I can play like super crazy stuff live, but I do implement a lot of stuff. Like that's the solo on We Are that's me as well, but
Sure.
I'm still like at the level where I'm still trying to learn a lot of instruments. Primarily, it's funny, I can play the drums pretty well live. That's my best instrument that I'm good at, but as you can tell, I don't use any of my live drums in the music I publish here. So I also just play piano and guitar, as you can hear. I play bass parts when necessary. I'm trying to learn basically all the instruments necessary to be a one-man band.
Sure.
Especially with like electronic things, I can kind of put something together.
Right. As a bass player myself, I started off as a bass player. I would sort of warn you and anybody who plays guitar not to play the bass like a guitar. It has its own nature, its own purpose in a band. That the technique is different, and most guitar players I know that learn bass, they just play guitar on bass in a way, and it has you can play it melodically, of course, but there is something about bass that it's got its own universe there. But it's quite impressive that you have all this natural skill. It's really, really nice to see. So let's just get a little bit more into your inspirations, your style, your process, and of course, most importantly, your purpose. Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Okay, that's a lot to unpack.
I know.
All at once. So I have a lot of different inspirations, and it really depends on what style and genre I'm doing at the time. Like when it comes to my electronic, let's just start with that since we played it earlier. I'm inspired a lot specifically by musicians in our sphere because there's a lot of really good electronic artists in our sphere.
Yeah.
Like I started off, right when I kind of got involved, I was listening to LSR and and then I was hearing like Zurius and Amalek, and those guys really inspire me, and especially like I hear Zurius and Amalek's collabs with High Wraith. I love those, so that really inspires me when I'm making my electronic music. But you could also tell probably if you listen to my Upwards EP that I have a lot of influence from like progressive rock and metal bands like Dream Theater. I know you know Dream Theater, right?
Oh, sure. I would definitely. How would you describe Dream Theater to people who don't know them?
Oh, geez. They do. I don't know. They do a lot of stuff.
I would say progressive rock for starters.
Yeah, just progressive rock. Yeah. There's a lot of elements they do sometimes that can lean into kind of a symphonic feel in some of
Yeah.
their albums, like the concept albums.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other progressive rock bands that kind of do a similar thing.
Yeah.
And
I
so
often think of progressive rock as music for musicians, you know.
that's true.
It's,
That's true.
you know, because these are people that are essentially super powered in terms of their ability to play and write music, and they tend to write music that's extremely complex and insanely difficult to perform. And so, but that's wild. I mean, it's like mind blowing to see or listen to. So, and then the concepts there's anyway, it's not a show about Dream Theater, but I can kind of see how that would influence you. There's just that epicness, I guess, for lack of a better word, you know, is there. So what other influences do you have?
Yeah. Well, there's I've been trying to like think back where I love for like ambient soundscapes and things like that, and I just like I've noticed that I can't really think of one except for like elements in other music. Like I'll hear lots of music that can use it effectively, but not quite in the way I do. Like there's some really good progressive metal bands like Tesseract that use good ambience in the background to contrast some of their heavier elements. And there's a lot of other like post-rock bands that will use some heavy ambience, you know, instead of a really dry, you know, rhythm guitar focus.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some of that, but mostly it's just I noticed when I make ambient music, it's just like I just think of like nature, kind of. I mean, I just can't really think of another inspiration. Like if you listen to Summer Moon, I mean, the title is self-explanatory. It's just a lot of times I'll write about something else and like a feeling when it comes to ambient stuff.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, listening to a lot of the ambient music and the other works you have that don't have vocals, I'm kind of like, oh man, I really would like to put some vocals on this, or I could, you know. I mean, time is my enemy, unfortunately, but like that would be a nice thing to collaborate with you in the future at some point.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe with Nullus's lyrics or something. You know?
By all means. You know, maybe I just wanted to really mention the fact that Awaiting Dawn wrote, well, he created a remix of Amalek's song, NAMF, right? That was where I used An Odd Feeling, which was my poem. And then you just like completely transformed it and to such a level where it was such a powerful song. And don't get me wrong, I really, you know, Amalek's music is phenomenal and it stands on its own and it's really great stuff. But what you did there with that remix was just, I mean, when I first heard it, you know, I got goosebumps and I'm like, wow, did I even write the words to this? You know, it was really, really impressive. And and you also created a video for this song in how you mixed it. And I thought that was really fascinating. All the editing process that you had that's involved in all of this. And I think that, you know, if you could maybe explain, not in that much detail, obviously, as the video, but first of all, what motivated you to do the remix for this collaboration that I had with Amalek? And also, B, why did you use that as your example in showing people how you edited this particular song?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because that was a really interesting circumstance where both of the media involved just really inspired me to a level where it's like I really had to make that remix because there was, if I'm not mistaken, Amalek writes his track and then you put your poem on top of it, right?
Well, in some cases, yeah. I think with this particular case, Amalek. So this was really interesting. So in this case, I took Amalek's music and I kind of felt that this music, or how was it again? And then Amalek's gonna you know, get the broom because I forgot exactly how we did this, but he wrote the music. So how was this? I had this song and then I think I combined it. I sent it to Amalek and then he fixed it basically, and then he you know, created a more professional version of what I kind of sort of figured out with it. but Amalek, correct me if I'm wrong on this. But that's what I do sometimes, not all the time, where I would find the music and then put my reading on top of it, or I put the music, or I combine the music with the reading, but not in every instance. Sometimes somebody will do it by themselves. They'll take my reading and then they'll create the music for it. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, yeah. I just was making sure because what happened, I think, is you get kind of that effect where you find something that kind of matches, but they're made separately, like
Right.
you can kind of tell. And I just loved each of the individual things to a point where I wanted to make something that could kind of put it together, and so kind of influence the remix of the track using elements from kind of your reading, which came after the track was originally written, and
Right.
kind of put it together. So that's kind of what I was going for when I made the remix, because I just thought these together so well that we like, made a synthesis kind of, then it would be really good. And I think it turned out pretty well.
Oh, I think it turned out phenomenally, and also I think you and I collaborated on my poem Artificial,
Mhm.
and so you created the song Awakening. Now that song already existed. It's a similar situation, right? That song already existed, and I don't know. I think I approached you with this request, and I asked you. I said I felt that this song really matches this poem, and then I think what you did was you basically fixed my reading. So the editing, the video, the sound editing, you adjusted that, and I think you also added a few additional chords to it or something, if I'm not mistaken. And then
Yeah.
that's how this whole collaboration came. Maybe if you could explain that as well, I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, that was a similar circumstance. So
Hmm.
basically, I got your reading and kind of you were. I think I only changed like, the placement of the reading a little bit. Mostly just put fancy effects to make it sound fancy. But
Hmm.
and then I also just added a few. I think it was just a little guitar solo part that one helped fill in the gap and just was an extra thing that sounded cool. So yeah, it really like flowed well together in the second version. Yeah, and that
So
was a really good
let me
collaboration.
steer the conversation a little bit. I want to learn more about your purpose with your music, how that's transformed over the, whatever the years, how did you come to find White Art Collective? How does that influence your music?
Okay, so
No easy questions on this show,
yeah,
everybody. You
exactly.
didn't know what you right?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, you really do like find kind of, at least for me, I kind of found my purpose as I went. Where I started off, at least the first time I made music, I was just inspired by LSR, and I'm like, okay, I want to make some music in this sphere and kind of put it out explicitly, uh, in this political sphere. And so I slowly started doing that, and then I started getting the idea that I should be putting out like specific, messages that I believe, because what is really good about music for me is it helps me convey things a lot easier than speaking, at least for me, where I just find it a lot easier to um, fit ideas into a song. So I started doing that, and that's kind of when I was like really wanted to get on vocals. It took me a while, but I've gotten to a level where I can actually do vocals and put out like songs with kind of a more explicit message. And that kind of became the purpose of this Awaiting Dawn project, is to kind of put out some ideas in a concise manner, kind of in song,
Mhm.
that would work better than just me talking, because like I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, let's make it a little more simple then. When did you learn about White Art Collective, and how has that impacted your music?
Yes, that was actually really good. Because it was not that long after I started making music. Um, like way back, after like the first couple songs I made a long time ago, Jeff contacted me and was like, "Hey, we're gonna play one." I was like, "Wait, what is this White Art Collective thing?" And I had no idea this was kind of a thing people were doing, but I was super blown away just because it's a really great idea to bring everyone together, and I was just kind of plugged in ever since, really.
Hmm. Nice, nice. So it's a beautiful community. It's very supportive, and I know that everybody enjoys your music a lot. When I listen to Mama P's Monday streams, etc., on D Live, when your music comes on, everybody's posting like really happy gifs, and everybody's just like floating. There's something elevating about your music, and I think you've got a pretty clear style and sort of voice and purpose. It kind of comes together, regardless of the fact that there's this interesting diversity of sound with the harder stuff, the guitar driven stuff, the ambient stuff. It all somehow feels like it comes from you, which is beautiful. I think that's very authentic. I suppose I would ask then, like, where do you think you'd like to go with your music? What are some maybe challenges or things that you feel anxious, like, man, I really want to get this accomplished, or I want to work more with this person or this element or what have you?
Hmm. Well, I do have a lot of plans for specific projects, more so in the realm of more guitar focused, like rhythm guitar focused metal music, because I've long had this idea for a kind of concept album series thing in the vein of Dream Theater and other progressive
Okay.
bands that can make a concept album that tells a story, where I organized Upwards EP kind of in a way that was conveying ideas in an order, and was meant to be connected and taken as a whole. And I
Mhm.
have a lot of ideas for some further projects that are going to be connected in kind of a story to Upwards EP and some other things like that. That's like my big project that I have
Mm.
planned that I'm hoping to be able to pull off well and not take way too long on, because that's my main issue is I take forever tweaking stuff and things like that.
Yeah, that's the thing about music that people don't understand, is how tedious it is. I hate to say that, but like it takes a lot of time. It's the recording. I mean, writing a song itself is its own animal, right? And then, here we got to go into the studio and the tracks and the tweaking and the editing and the bing bang boom. Then you got to make a video and you got to create graphics, and then you're like a one person studio. And
Mhm.
not all of us, but many of us in the White Art Collective are doing exactly that. It's all sort of a labor of love, sort of on a shoestring budget. So it's really, really commendable to see people like you producing the quality of work you're doing, and the content is just great. It contributes a lot to the spirit of what we're doing as well. I mean, there's a whole range of emotion, and we talk about this in Imperium Art, that we should be free to express all this, from the darkest to the lightest. But
Mhm.
it seems like your work has a very positive intention. What's the result you hope for when people listen to your music?
Yeah, it really, again, it depends very much on kind of which one of my songs you're listening to. Where there's many of my ambient songs tend to be more cheerful and or just like focused on awe,
Mm,
which is one kind of minor element that I like to go for in ambient songs, where it's kind of inspired by and focused on the feeling of like awe by nature and things like that, and kind of a that sort of feeling. And then of course there's other songs like Summer Moon and We Are, which are very positive focused and focused on inspiring people and energizing people in a way. Um, and
mhm,
then there's other songs and projects like Upwards EP and the uh, the further things I'm planning that are darker, and but in a way that tells a more complex story, kind of trying to help kind of add to an understanding of our position and kind of an emotional analysis as well as to the position we're in. You know.
mhm. Yeah, that opens up another topic, which is generally, what's your take on the movement right now? What do where are we right now as a white positive movement? And what are the challenges? Where do you think we need to be moving or focusing our attention?
Yeah, that's pretty tough because I I don't know. I find it hard to put forward anything that I consider to be like definitive, like, and I don't consider myself experienced enough to be able to say, oh, we should go this direction or that direction. But I, but I think anyone can see that we have major problems with unity, kind of in our whole
Mm,
area, and with reaching people that kind of have this Pavlovian response to our ideas. And I just really love the work that Jason Kuna's doing,
yeah,
and other people kind of like him that are trying to change kind of the way we talk about things like this in a positive direction.
that's huge. That's huge. I wanted to pass the mic to my buddy Nullus a little bit, see if he had any comments or questions.
No, none at the moment. I'm just enjoying this conversation. I'm a part of the audience for the moment.
All right. Very good. Very good. So, one question we always ask our guests is we ask them, how did you come to your racial awakening?
Yeah, well, my situation was kind of funny because it was just basically right after the 2016 election. It was my brother was just basically introducing me to um, right wing Twitter and all the ideas that get spammed around over there. So it was just like, ideas that I'd never thought about that confirmed things that I knew on a subconscious level. Like you see the FBI crime statistics and stuff like that, and that's funny for a little bit, but then you realize kind of the implications of there's some truths kind of that we weren't being allowed to know, and there's the implications of that, and it just puts into context everything that I knew before that I wasn't like allowed to express. Like why is it that some people are demonized and other people are celebrated, and why is there a double standard when it comes to cultural things? Why does everyone seem to hate everything about Western culture for no reason, stuff like that? And it's just like something that's really obvious in retrospect, but if you never hear it, then you can never really get it, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
kind of, so I've got plugged in there and just looking at various ideas on all spectrums, where I get some very very tame stuff, and then some very Wignat kind of level stuff, and I just absorbed all of that for a while, and was just, and I'm still kind of in a position where I'm still learning, and I feel like I have a lot to go when it comes to understanding completely the direction to go, but
Just kind of figuring it out for yourself, I guess, right?
mm-hmm.
So, who would you say are some people that you follow closely or that you recommend to others, such as Jason Kuna, No White Guilt?
Yeah, so at least one of the more influential people that I followed initially that kind of got me into all these ideas was actually just Orwell and Good. It's a Twitter account that is just for
Yeah.
some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's a few other good ones, like Battle Beagle was another one.
Good account. Great account. I enjoy that too.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
actually a lot. It's insane. Everybody is like an expert
it's
almost
hard
out there on Twitter. We're all producing or sharing information, and it's weird because I feel like a strong sense of family with all these people on Twitter that I have no idea who they are.
Exactly.
We care so much. We're so deeply invested in saving Western civilization, in white well-being. None of this is a hatred of any other people. It's celebrating our own people, and yet we're getting punched in the face repeatedly by society, and yet have to have a kind of like a golden character and just persevere through that. So when someone like you comes along and produces beautiful music that's uplifting and positive, it's really it's just very refreshing. It's a ray of sunshine in an otherwise very toxic media environment. So that's hats off to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, indeed. So it's interesting too how you just came to this racial awakening simply by reading facts. A lot of people that we meet, though, they tend to have a bad experience of some kind that wakes them up, and they go, "Whoa," some whatever it might be, But I think that just simply knowing the simple truth, all the data, all the statistics, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I feel like people have to be trying extremely hard to close their eyes and their ears to the anti-white system that we're in. I mean, it's just so in your face all the time. It's so insane, you know. But anyway, let's talk a little bit more then about the arts in the culture war. So you are in some way a kind of I suppose a soldier in the culture war with the rest of us in the White Art Collective, right? So what is your impression of the arts and its impact on our culture, and you know, your general philosophy about that?
Yeah, I'm not one of the people that will like overstate the arts and say they're everything and it's the most important thing, because that's really easy to do as a musician, especially.
Mhm.
But you have to admit that there is something special about the arts when it comes to impacting people, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that can be told through art that can't really be told through anything else, and especially when it comes to music, where you can hear like something that's a positive message, something that's uplifting, and then even someone who doesn't agree with us is like, oh wait, so this is from those supposedly hateful people that, you know, hate everyone or something like that.
Mhm.
You know, there's something about that I think can impact people on a deeper level than just a bunch of discourse that everyone's, you know, closing their ears to because they've been conditioned to.
Yeah, it's that I think is maybe the number one problem, is that we're living in a world of zombies, of people who are propagandized to hate themselves and to, in a sense, they've been poisoned mentally and spiritually in a sense that they're driving the destruction of their own civilization. They're advocating for their enemies. And there's all kinds of twisted reasons why they do this. It's quite sickening. So I feel like in light of that, music like you do, and you know, and the work that people do in the White Art Collective, what Jason Kuna is doing, and et cetera, Mark Collette, and on and on. It's so powerful. It's so necessary, and it's funny because it's like I don't know if using double-edged sword is the analogy I want to use here, but on the one hand, it's very positive for us. It empowers us, it educates us, emboldens us, it gives us hope, gives us vision, purpose, etc. And then on the other side of the sword, so to speak, it battles our enemies, you know, with knowledge, with culture. So empowering our culture with this kind of music and arts, etc., is just as critical as knowing data. I feel, you know, it's kind of, you have the heart and the mind, you know, and the two have to be in some balance. So I just want to highlight like how your work fits in to the entire sort of mosaic of the white identity political sphere. So that's quite a good thing. Nullus, did you want to chime in a little?
Well, I would just add that art and music, poetry, painting, any kind of graphic arts, memes, which we're thinking a lot more and more about, but not just memes as in is it a GIF or a GIF?
A GIF.
I'm just kidding. But you have, you know, all these different media that you can use to convey messages, and we're weaving a new mythology, but we are also drawing upon our ancient mythology and our continuity throughout the history of the European man. So what we're doing today is I think an exceptionally I don't want to use the word revolutionary again. We're stuck in this extremely limited use of language sometimes, because, you know, you'll say, oh, this music is revolutionary. No, it's not. It's good. That's what it is. And so, but what I do believe is that it's extremely important for us to find all of these different styles and genres and types of expression to create this mythology for us, because we need to create a vision of the future for not just for ourselves, but for our collective identity, and also for our future, for generations to come. And so I think this is where your work, Donald, and Awaiting Dawn, your work, are exceptionally valuable to this end. It gives that energy, it gives that meaning, and it provides people who may not be so inclined, artistically inclined, to just turn it on, listen to it, and identify with it, and it helps them move forward. It helps them, it inspires them to do something positive. And I think that's really what that's the best we can ask for at this point. And hopefully we can build it into something even stronger over time.
Very inspirational. Those very strong words, Nullus. Well, let me move on a little bit then. So, as always, we ask our guests to read Nullus's essay on Imperium Art. So we're wondering if you have any notes or comments or critiques, anything you'd like to share. What was your response to Nullus's essay on Imperium Art?
Well, ever since I first heard it, like way back when you guys were first doing maybe the first like 15 Imperium Art talks, I thought it was really interesting, and I'm rereading it recently. There were a lot of things that really stuck out to me that were just really good elements to focus on when it comes to making music and things like that. And some things that I already felt like were important things I was trying to do that were expressed really well, I thought, in this essay. One thing mainly I think is the idea of the sublime, which is just so different from everything that modern art is.
It's
And
beautiful.
Yeah, and I just thought that idea was really good. It just like kind of puts into words the kind of feeling that I often go for, where I don't want to like go through the routine and make a song just for making a song. Like you can listen to it for a little bit and then forget about it, or something like that. Art is kind of supposed to go for something more, and I think that's a really good idea, especially when it comes to this context where we're trying to inspire people and kind of build a community here.
Absolutely. Your work clearly is tuned into the sublime. I think everybody's different, right? I mean, we're all different. We have different personalities, things we like, different tastes, etc. But I could see how you were attracted to the concept of the sublime, with the ambient. It's not just that; it's the way that you sing and what you say when you sing. That you really, I feel you have a gentle soul, and it comes across beautifully in the music. So that's well said. Any other? Or go ahead, Nullus. You wanted to jump in?
Well, I wouldn't say that Awaiting Dawn only has a gentle soul. I think that Awaiting Dawn has a very powerful voice, and that expressed itself in, for example, the way he really elevated the work, that these collaborations that I spoke of earlier. It's really powerful stuff, I think. And I think and that's how a lot of us feel, right? We want to be gentle. We want to be nice. We want to be good people because we believe in the good. We want to be good. But then there's that aspect where we have to embrace the storm. We have to become the storm sometimes. And I think that Awaiting Dawn beautifully expresses both sides of this emotional, this emotionality of art.
Yeah,
Beautifully done. Yeah, that comes back to Nullus's concept of embracing the full spectrum of emotion, and so your work is clearly like exemplary in that sense as well. Were there other themes or points in the essay that you wanted to comment on?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, especially since Nullus pointed out kind of the contrast there between the more powerful, strong emotions and the more like gentle stuff, that I thought that really related to the other thing I loved about the essay, which was the concept of cognitive dominance as applied to art expression and things like that, where that's something like I was doing without realizing it as well, especially when it comes to like Upwards EP. I can point out a specific example where the technically the second song, but the first song, Enough, is basically about anger and about being fed up and about being in the moment where all the intellectualizing is put away and you just think about what you need to do to survive.
Right.
Things like that. That's kind of the pure focus of that song. Whereas the the next song, Center Point, is purposely balancing that and talking about, well, if all we have is anger, then we don't really have anything.
Yeah.
And so we need to, have a clear mind on that as well. And I love the concept of cognitive dominance because it kind of put into words that emotional balance that we really need, especially nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, the problem we see today is everyone's screaming at each other.
Yeah.
And everyone is trying to scream over the other one. And what they're really trying to do, and this is, you could see this in conservative ink. You could see this with the progressives. You could see this with the Bolsheviks and the anarchists and all these other guys. And we have to be better than that. We have to. We're not snake oil salesmen. We're not trying to sell someone on an ideology. We're not trying to talk them into becoming something they're not. We have to represent the truth. And when we do that, we have to be powerful in our message, but we have to be, we have to rise above this screeching, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I feel that the arts, in a sense, do that in the way that it shows confidence. It shows, any culture or subculture that has its own music and art, etc., media, etc., they are just exuding it naturally because it's their nature to do so. And I find that, the dialogue or the arguments going on between the left and right are, how do I say this? We're always trying to prove our points, and they're always trying to deconstruct us and change the language. And it's just insanity. Whereas when we make our arts, we are fully whole within ourselves. We're true to ourselves, and it's as strong as a mountain. It doesn't need explanation. It doesn't need excuses. It doesn't need anything. We're just who we are, and it's a powerful testament. So I think that's something to say, to kind of maybe add to this conversation as well. So any other points in the essay that grabbed you?
Well, let's see. I don't think anything in specific that I think I have any intelligent thoughts on. I'm not exactly an academic, so I don't think I have any like true critiques on it, other than to possibly mention some of the context of some of the other conversations where I think a lot of people were trying to interpret it as a bit more concrete, like in a way, like there was some there's thinking, oh, this is some sort of let's see, like a prescriptive molds we're trying to place on other people or things like that. And I know that that's not something you guys were going for. So I was wondering if you guys wanted to kind of elaborate on that, on the difference there.
That's actually an important point, and that's something that throughout this whole project we've been trying to figure out. To be honest with you, should this be a selective and exclusive kind of identifier, calling it Imperium Art? Mm-hmm. Should it be an inclusive identifier? Should it even be prescriptive at all? And I think that, and Donald, I don't know how you feel about it after all of these episodes, but right. I'm still trying to figure it out, first of all. But I think that you're absolutely right about the original intent, which was not to be prescriptive, not to box anyone into any particular direction. The point we wanted to really achieve, at least in the beginning, was to raise these questions and bring it up and say, look, we need something. Donald's concept, Imperium Art, is a brilliant concept. Let's try to figure out, let's throw some ideas out, and let's see how we can build upon it. That's why, of course, we're always telling everyone to please critique it, question it. It belongs to all of us. And but at the same time, I do believe that we are kind of heading towards an understanding of what this is supposed to mean. Yeah. And I think that we do have to have certain exclusivity in terms of what it is that we're trying to represent here. We're not representing certain liberal elements where that have created this milieu that has then ultimately led to where we are today. That's exactly what we're trying to correct. And I think that we have to set certain lines in the sand, or draw certain lines in the sand. We have to set certain parameters, but I don't think those parameters are meant to box in an artist, if that makes sense. It's more to understand the context of the direction we want to take this. Donald, I don't know how much you want to add to this one.
Yeah, beautifully stated. First off, I would start off by saying there is no yielding or bending or cucking whatsoever to the left and all of their dialectic, all of their paradigms. We are, in a sense, our own island. We, in a sense, are an imperium already, that we are standing up for who we are, for our sovereignty, our future. We claim our past. We recognize and celebrate the differences between our ethnic traditions and all that entails, yet simultaneously recognize how we're kind of transforming into a new people, in the regard that there is a global assault on Caucasians, on people of European descent, of people, and that we are targeted for extinction. We recognize that, and that is the cornerstone of the Imperium. It's the cornerstone from which all the wonderful arts and culture, politics, ideas, ideologies, etc., can spring and grow. And all of these things, that actually is too big of a topic. I'll bring it back to the arts here. So we started this off where the right foot is saying, yeah, let's make a manifesto and let's make this a movement. And the left foot is saying, well, no, we got to figure out what this is. Who are we? What is this about? So that's why it's hard to define this project, because we did set off as leaders saying we are a movement, but what are we as a movement? And so that's what the Imperium Art Project has been a documentary of. If at some point people in education can take this entire series and turn it into a course, for example, which I hope happens someday soon, then it would be a fabulous look at the coming of age of the arts in our movement, and then how the movement noticed us.
Right.
This Saturday, for example, is the second half of the White Art Collective Music Festival. This was a real life music festival where many of us drove or flew in from different parts of the country, and thousands of dollars were spent on getting together for that weekend and producing our first live music festival. So that is a tremendous step forward for our culture. And I think everyone around the White Art Collective, the sort of the audience, if you will, and then beyond, are beginning to wake up. Not beginning to, there's several people that are involved, but I think I'd say that the awareness of what we're doing is growing exponentially. So as that happens, the arts and the movement merge more together, closer together. There was a momentum going on at the beginning of this month where I had Mark Collette on American Zarathustra. I had Frody Midjord. It's growing and it's becoming stronger and more powerful. But to ask, well, what is it that's growing and becoming more powerful? It's us. It's our movement. It's the arts movement. So, I took it upon myself to use the term Imperium to give it to sharpen the spear point, to kind of say, okay, this is the direction it should move. And I'm not saying I'm the boss or I'm the leader of anything. I'm a member of this that loves the movement. I love everyone in it. I love the audience, etc. We're one big family. So, but as an art teacher, art educator, and a professional artist and musician, I felt like, okay, I've got the resume, so to speak, to do this. So I'm going to do it, kick it off. And then, again, I've always invited challenges. Nullus and I have had incredible conversations with so many brilliant people, brilliant artists. So what it is it's coming together, the two sides where who are we and where are we going? Those answers are all formulating as you watch the series. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I really like both of those responses. I think it's really interesting how, there are these two sides where there is kind of a introspective kind of understanding, and as well as like a directionality
Mm-hmm.
kind of to the idea of Imperium art. And that's something I noticed as well when I was looking at some of the discourse on the topic, where, well, sure, it doesn't have to be prescriptive. Everyone has to do this, or else you're,
Yeah.
some people like misinterpret that. But at the same time, I think it's really useful to take a descriptive look and say, well, what is the core of who we are, and how can we apply that to kind of the direction we're going in order to reach our goal? And that's kind of a lot of my perspective on Imperium art. Is there's a lot of worthy goals in the ideas, where we're like, as artists, we can like seek the sublime and seek cognitive dominance over the conveyance of our ideas and kind of where we're going, and take inspiration from many sources in our ancestry as well. And those are just like generally good ideas in terms of like goals to strive for. It's not, doesn't have to be something that's like constraining anybody really. And I don't think that like those two ideas of this is one, who we are, but it's also where we're going, they don't have to be mutually exclusive as well.
Yeah, and it's important to point out that when we use the term art movement, historically that meant a group of people who all prescribed to the same kind of rules. So you had the Impressionist school of painters, or the abstract expressionist painters. They all painted, in a sense, in the same style. Or you could say, punk rock, that's a kind of music, the punk rock movement. Well, they criticized society, the system, and they were loud and brash and violent and sexual, and that's the style of that kind of music movement, if you will. So we are far more broad in that regard. We, as Nullus points out, we have the full spectrum, and so it's hard for people to wrap their head around it, because it's not the same use of the word art movement. This is very definitely an art movement. But that's why I keep coming back to saying the root of it is rebellion against white genocide. Nullus?
Yeah, I would add to this. First of all, I was thinking about this term rebellion, right? And maybe we should focus on the revolt. And so what we're doing is we're rising up against something, but we're not tearing down something. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to stop here with that reasoning, because I just realized that I'm wrong. What I meant to say, though, that everything that we've done here, it doesn't preclude the fact that people shouldn't write manifestos. You can have various movements within Imperium art. You can have various manifestos written that are tied to Imperium art. Yeah. So I would encourage anyone who's inclined to do so to write manifestos. I'm actually trying to write one over the course of the summer. I'd like to write a very short 3-page manifesto. I don't know how successful I'd be with it, but I'm going to try and attempt to write a manifesto. Now, what I'm trying to say with that is that Imperium art is a movement, and within this broader movement, you can have sub-movements. You can have different things that are focused on certain aspects of Imperium art. And that's what makes this organic. That's what makes this so beautiful.
Beautifully said. Yeah. It would be very interesting, actually, just as a project, to have everyone in the White Art Collective make, a short list of what would be the quote rules of our manifesto if you had to write one.
Right.
And that's why I started this off by saying we are unbendable and uncompromising on our commitment to stopping white genocide. We will not lie, we can express things in different ways. There's ways that one expresses things that could kind of get you in some trouble, and you have to be careful of how you. I think we all understand this now, right? But at the same time, we shouldn't lose our freedom of speech. So there's a responsibility there. I'm not saying scream fire in a crowded movie theater. I'm saying, something else, that, get clever with how you convey what you have to say.
Donald, and I'm sorry, I'll just make it very short. I think if we focus on avoiding gratuitous violence,
right,
and we focus more on the understanding of the reasons behind our emotions, and we can express that creatively. And also, I should add that no matter what we do, we have to strive toward perfection. We have to be better than ourselves. We have to be better than we were yesterday. We always have to be better than everyone around us, not because we, I mean, not for any other reason, but because that's how we can succeed.
And that's who we are. All you have
Right.
to do is look at a cathedral in Europe to say,
Right.
this is what I come from. I took my son to the local history museum to see something about the World's Fair and the architecture. This is just 100 years ago in America, a little more than that. And people with their own hands are created these insanely beautiful pieces of art, sculpture, architecture, monumental, and without any technology that we possess today. And no man today seems to be able to do any of that. And so we've become less of men and less of women over the last 100 years. We have to go back in this, and I mean that in the sense of like we have to restore, rather,
Or reconnect those severed ties.
Thank you. Yeah, to our greatness again. It's
Right.
in our blood. It's in our DNA. It's in our heritage, in our traditions. It's all about knowing who you are. And that's where our music, our arts, film, poetry, etc., all of it is reminding our people and emboldening them to be great once again.
Yeah, I really love that kind of ambition to this entire Imperium Art idea, where it's true. We do kind of, I feel, have a duty to our ancestors and to kind of pursue this and kind of strive for greatness in every area, basically. And of course, us as artists, we need to be focused on the goal um, of excellence and, of course, saving our people. And that's something I think Imperium Art does a really good job of focusing on and facilitating.
Fantastic. Well, that seems like a really wonderful place to kind of, close up the show, maybe play one more of your songs. And so let's, if you could please tell the audience where they can find you and support you. And then I want to thank you very, very much for your time today, Mr.
Yeah, I just wanted to add it was a very special honor to have you on today, Waiting Dawn.
Indeed.
Right.
And I know the audience is so happy too. The White Art Club, like when are you going to have him on? So, I'm sorry for being so slow on that. So where can people support you?
Yeah, okay. So I am on YouTube, D Live. You can just search Awaiting Dawn. If you wanted to contact me, you can just tweet at me on Twitter. It's at awaiting dawn _. You can find almost, I think, all my music. I need to update it soon, but on awaitingdawnmusic.bandcamp.com. That's somewhere you can. That's somewhere you can download some stuff. I'm not like making a ton of money off this, so I don't have any problem giving it off there for free. And let's see. I'm also on Odyssey. If you look me up, it's just at Awaiting Dawn after that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Well, once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you very much, Nullus, for your wonderful insights as usual. And a special thank you to everybody in the audience in the chat who has joined us today. It's so great to see all our old friends and a couple new friends in there as well. So many interesting comments and people that really care and are very, very supportive of our community. So you guys are heroes in our eyes as well. So God bless everybody. Have yourself a good evening.
In the dead of night, there's no place for us. We're the people of light, and we have no choice but to fight. It's as if we're seeing now, for the first time in our lives. We have fought and we have found the truth in our own minds. It's as if we're seeing now everything they tried to hide, the identity we had. It's time for us to find. Ever we will rise, leaving the twisted shackles behind. Our place is not in the dead of night, but forever rising up into the light. We're reversing all the shame that was splitting us apart. They will rightly bear the blame they forced upon our hearts. We're reversing all the shame, correcting every lie. We're restoring every name that belongs in the sky. Ever we will rise, leaving the twisted shackles behind. Our place is not in the dead of night, but forever rising up into the light. The journey has begun. We're the people of light. We're not returning to the dark. The journey has begun. We're the people of light. We're not returning to the dark. We're learning how to fight. The journey has begun. We're the people of light. We're not returning to the dark. We're learning how to fight. The journey has begun. We're the people of light. We're not returning to the dark. We're learning how to fight. We'll move on. The city's fought left behind us. We won't be back again. We'll move on. An endless path set before us. I know that we'll find our way. We will rise, leaving the twisted shackles behind. Our place is not in the dead of night, but forever rising up into the light.